Welcome to Middle Fingers Up. I am your host, Karen, and I've been thinking about what I want to say at the beginning of this recording. So I think the thing I'm going to do that I do best is out myself. Because of the kind of topic we're going to discuss, I just wanted to make sure I had my own perception of this topic and my own experiences in check. Because really here at MFU, we all know we're opening doors, we're being curious, we're inviting each other to have truthful conversations and think, am I part of this? Can I change this? Maybe this is, I didn't see it this way. Can I help someone? So in my footnotes of my notes on every page, I have a note to remind myself to keep myself in check. And I wrote something to remind me throughout the episode is to have empathy for this topic. And most of us have been this woman at some point. So we just maybe did not have the language for it. And this is just, I thought, I'm just going to read this out because those of us that are joining this conversation, listening, watching, things might come up for all of you as well. And of course, we always include non-binary men, everyone. But because there's two, they see women about to have a conversation, we only know our intersection. So I just wanted to propose that this is probably something a lot of us women experience at some point. So what are we talking about? Okay, so this episode is kicking off a season we all know really well. And it comes at this time of year, and we're not going to necessarily talk about it in the way of the celebrations, the gatherings, events, the outfits. We're actually going to talk about maybe what's happening behind the scenes, everything that is occurring kind of underneath the surface for some of the people that partake in this part of the season. And some of you are probably like, I know exactly what you're talking about. So we're focusing on the in-between moments, that emotional stuff that maybe doesn't always come up in a way of knowing how to name it. But it happens and sometimes we brush it off. And I just thought it'd be a good time to give all of us permission to actually be willing to acknowledge that these things do happen for some of us, to talk it out, to name it, to let it out, because I think sometimes we forget that more than one feeling can be occurring at the same time, especially when you're entering a space that's about celebrating in joy and happiness. And so then it feels odd to be feeling other things outside of that. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that everyone that walks into these kind of spaces isn't necessarily feeling the same thing. So we put a bunch of different energy together and we don't often know how to say it loud, and probably why a lot of us are hanging out in the open bar area. So this episode is about making space for all of that. And so we're talking about Shadi season, wedding season. It's a time for most cultures. It's that summer vibe. But because my guest and I are South Asian, we only really know our experience with the Desi kind of wedding stuff. So we're focusing on that. But I think a lot of different communities can probably connect to what we're about to say. So as we said, it's beautiful, it's celebration, it's community, it's love, it's all of those things. So we don't want to take away from that. But again, it's a space that brings up a lot. There are more than one thing there's more than one thing that can exist, as we said at the same time. You can genuinely be happy for a friend, a loved one who is getting married. And they're starting something new, and maybe for yourself, it's like grieving something. It's being part of the beginning of someone else's journey, and your journey of marriage is coming to an end. And so it's all sorts of things that happen in between. And we don't talk about all that. And I think that when we don't talk about all of these sorts of things, the emotions don't just get tucked away. They find a different way to come out. So a while back, let me reintroduce my guest. A while back, I sat down with Mohini. She talked about her experience with divorce in the community of being Indian. Episode 122, There is a Fire in All of Us. It's one of my favorite titles of all my episodes. I love that. And so she talked about what it means, what it costs, what it takes to rebuild in that process process of finding yourself as a South Asian woman who's experiencing divorce. And that episode opened up, I think, conversations around identity, shame, and really like truly what it means to rewrite your story. And so now here we are at this other place of like, okay, you're divorced, you're single, but now you're going to a wedding. And what happens? What happens for you in that time? And I'm excited to have this conversation with Mo because, again, if we don't allow the time to be able to let all this out, we leak. It comes out in how we show up for, let's say, the bride and groom or the family. It shows up in how we cope. Like I said, sometimes it's those substances. It shows up in all the things that we don't say and do say. And we said unprocessed emotion doesn't disappear. It finds another way. And so let's talk about a better way to allow those unprocessed emotions and give each other permission to go there. Because just as a wedding is important, so are the feelings of those of us that attend that maybe have a different story that didn't quite end in this traditional marriage happy ending. And that doesn't mean there is no other happy ending, no matter what an auntie at the wedding is saying. So Mo, you're back. Thank you for coming on. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. This is going to be a really juicy, interesting topic that I feel like we need space to talk about more and have real conversations. So that's what we're about to do. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Okay. So maybe I'm going to just start with like, I've started to ask this question that's kind of become this ritual about if you, I always say to my guests, like if you were going to get in a time machine and go back and talk to like a different age of you, what age would you pick and what would you tell them? But for you, I want to focus it more on like, if you were to get into this time machine and you could go back to at the beginnings of your process of either when you were first learning you're about to have a divorce, when you had the realization, even during the process, like that sort of era of your life, what time, what phase would you go back and spend a moment with yourself and like, what would you tell yourself then and like what you know now?
Well, fittingly, today is actually my legally divorced anniversary.
What?
Yes.
No way. Look at this. Wow.
Yeah. So when we were figuring out a time of when to do this, it's like Friday or Monday. Like, let's do Monday. Let's do Monday.
Yeah, let's do Monday. I thought you were just like a fan of 420. So I was like, okay, let's do. But that is so interesting. Okay. Yeah. Timing.
Yes. So what I would tell previous versions of myself that was initially just starting to figure out what the heck it means when, let's just say, life wasn't going as planned and my fairy tale didn't end up the way that I thought it was going to.
Yeah.
I would let that version of me know that it's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. You're going to have some really lonely moments. You're going to have moments that are going to test you. Your friendships are going to test you. Your relationships are going to test you. Your family's going to test you. You're going to test yourself. And it's going to suck sometimes. That's the reality of it. And there's also some really high points, that things that you get to experience that you probably would have not have gotten to experience if you were still in that marriage, if you were still in that identity, you were still in that version of yourself. So even when it gets really sucky and it is really challenging, just be with those moments, be with those emotions, be with those experiences, and ride the wave. Like, just ride it out. It's not always going to be high. It's not always going to be low. And that's part of the process. There's a lot to learn through all of that. And it's worth it. It's worth it. It gets better eventually. And just keep going. Just keep trusting yourself. That's the main thing that I would definitely tell myself, is like, trust yourself. Know that you're making a decision that is not easy. However, it is ultimately going to be one of the biggest catalysts that sets you free.
That's so well said. Do you think that you would believe this you at that in that time that you're in?
I think that version of me would definitely have a lot of doubts and not know how. She would want to know. She was very logical at that point. And so, but very intuitive also, but tried to think her way through a lot of things. So I think she would have not believed. Like, she would want to know how. How is that true? How is that possible? How are we going to get there?
Where's the evidence? Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's fair, right? Hindsight's a bitch. Like sometimes you gotta
Yeah.
go through your journey to get to where you are to understand. And of course, when we're in the midst of something messy and however that is, we can't recognize all these sorts of things that are coming up. And logical is safe. It's a safe place to be
Right.
and to go. And I can imagine as well, coming from our kind of community, you really want to think this through
Mhm.
before you make this life decision, because
Mhm.
it's not just divorcing your partner, it's divorcing families and all this. So I can appreciate being in this place of like logic of like, is this the best scenario? You're like Doctor Strange from Marvel, like weighing out all the scenarios to say, is this the best outcome? What kept you going through that process and kept you going, I guess? Like, what was there anything or anyone in particular?
I think it was my hope for my future self, um,
Yeah.
and my younger self, like my younger version of me that I think just dreamt that there was a different life for me, and that I didn't know. I had no idea what any of that meant. Like I just knew there had to be different for me, and I
Mm,
would figure it out. So I think knowing as I say, like the 8-year-old version of me and the 80-year-old version of me, both sort of giving me, cheerleading me on and saying that this is a chapter of my life. And how do I want to write it? Like what is the next chapter following when I'm actually writing my chapter? I think that part of my life was truly, it was written by someone else. I don't even want to say by one person. It was many people, it was many systems, it was many traditions, and I was reading it and just following very without any conscious choice, really.
yeah.
The 80-year-old version of me was like, hey, what do you actually want to, how do you actually want to live your life?
Ooh,
And
what a question when you're just like, following what you're kind of told you got to do and stuff. And now that's a scary question
it
to
is a scary
be
question.
asked.
Yeah, because now I was actually able to write my own story. And
Yeah.
when I hadn't been able to do that, it was a little jarring, to be honest, because I was like, well, I don't actually know what I want.
Yeah.
I've been told what I want, and then I have just assumed that that's what I want. But what actually happens, like when I choose what I want, what do I actually want?
Yeah.
I really, really, really had to give myself a lot of time to unlearn and figure out what it is that I want. Because I just didn't know, to be honest.
Yeah.
I didn't know. But I knew that I wanted different. That was one thing that I knew. I knew that, and I knew that I had been trying to have different for a long time, and that wasn't working.
Yeah.
So I needed to change something. I needed to change a lot of things.
Yeah, 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 I can imagine. Like sometimes it makes more sense to know what you don't want.
Yeah.
And the simplest way, and God, no comparison, because it's such a simple thing, is like I know what I don't want to eat for dinner,
Hmm.
but I can't tell you what I do want to eat.
Right.
And there's too much choice. And so when you're now dealing with your life and making such a big decision, whether you and your ex made it together or, you led that, I
Hmm.
think at the end of the day, still, it's like, okay, I know that this isn't the thing for me. But then, yeah, the process of like, what is a thing? Because then now all these other layers are coming about, which is like, who is this woman that I'm supposed to
Yeah.
be and I want to be and what they said I have to be. And I think a lot of women, South Asian women, women of color, I think a lot of women can relate to where you were at in this. Okay, now if I were to rewrite the next chapter, like where would I start? So like what would you say to other women that would be in a similar-ish, I know everyone's experience is different, but like a
Hmm.
similar-ish boat in that you were in about to make a new life decision. You knew what you needed something different, but you didn't know what that different was. Is there a place that women can start?
I think the place to start is, it's going to sound very cliche, but it's going to be within. Like you got to go inside. And because we're so used to looking for answers externally, we're looking for validation externally. We're checking, hey, how do I look? How's this outfit? You know, where should we move? What should we have for dinner? And a simple thing is like, well, I want Thai food for dinner. That's like a small thing, but that's being in your sovereignty and your ability to choose, like, oh, I actually want Thai food for dinner. And I think so many women, we're kind of just moving along. We've got a lot going on. If we're working, if there's kids, there's a lot of mental load and emotional load. And so I think a place to start would be one to kind of just do an inventory, I guess, of like a check of where are you in different areas of your life, and are you actually fulfilled and happy, or are you kind of just moving along with what's expected? And that's a good way to kind of just check in with yourself around, are you really happy? Like, really though? Like, really? If things were an ideal situation, are you really good with where you're at right now? And if not, then what things need to change that you have control of, that you can make change of? So if there's kids involved, for example, and you're doing a lot of the pickups and drop-offs, where can you delegate? One day, maybe one pickup. Start with that. It can be really simple, or you're doing all the meals. Okay, delegate one meal. Maybe you go out. Maybe you order takeout. What is way that you can kind of just start to take off the mental load so that you have more capacity to be able to check in with yourself? Because if we're like already at capacity with everything else that's going on, it's hard. It's really hard. We're in survival mode. Even if we have the house and the job and the car and the travel and the kids and the puppy, you can still be in survival mode when you have all of these external successes, because internally you might be haywiring, so being able to check in with yourself, where are you at?
And I think also, like, when you just list off all these things that she may have, kids and this and that, sometimes it's also like becomes this like distraction strategy too of, okay, because I'm so busy with the external, and that's kind of where my worth, my need, all of that validation, as you mentioned, is all coming from. It's like filling your day with all these sorts of things so that you don't have to do the thing, which your question of like, where are you really at? Like really at? And that's scary to do. But knowing the same thing, even if it's the worst thing, knowing that that's the same thing that's going to keep happening for some is like the safe bet. And so how would a woman like make that transition and say, okay, am I distracting myself with all this noise, especially when you're a woman that's maybe not had role models and other women around you that are doing that, and everyone's just being the lovely assistant to the household, which is the case for so many.
Yeah. And I agree. I think so many of us don't have those role models. My mom was not that. I didn't have aunties to show me that they were taking care of themselves, that this showed me that they could receive care from other people. They were doing the most because that's what was expected of them, and therefore that's what they tolerated also. So I think having awareness is step number one. Like, if you don't have awareness of how much you are taking on, you can't do anything about it. You can't change anything unless you really acknowledge everything you're carrying. So it really, to me, is like doing a proper audit of like, where are you caretaking for more? You're managing a lot, because without that awareness, it's really, you can't make changes, really. So I'd say start with that, and then find out who and where you can delegate to. Where can you get support from? Where can you receive care? And notice, like, so just become aware of, oh, if you're waiting for whoever for 10 minutes at school, for example, you're waiting for your kids to pick up your kids at school, at the school drop-off line, instead of kind of just like taking a moment to breathe, for example, or check in with yourself, or just have nothing else going on, how quickly we pick up our phone.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Or we text a friend, or we call a friend. Like, do you have moments, even honestly, if it's like 2 minutes, 5 minutes in the entire 24 hours of a day, to just be with yourself? Nothing else going on. Sometimes you might have to go into the bathroom for 5 minutes. Everyone, give me 5 minutes. Put a timer on and tell everyone in the house.
Yeah.
I need 5. And that's it. And sometimes that can be helpful. But I think just noticing how quickly we can go to calling a friend, texting a friend, distracting ourselves, finding all of these. We are inundated truly
Yeah.
with so much stimulus externally, and it's by design. It is truly by design that it keeps us distracted from just being by ourselves. And it's hard.
Yeah, it
That can be
is.
challenging. And so give yourself 2 minutes to just be and breathe. Like breathe, properly breathe.
Yeah.
It's a good start.
I think this is a good place to even transition to, even as we're talking about like Shadi season,
Mhm.
it's so similar too, because in our community, sometimes we have like multiple events to attend.
Oh
And
yeah.
so there you are again, like busy with outfits and matching and this and
Mhm.
that. And if you're directly involved in,
Mhm.
because you're so connected to the bride and groom, you have all these sorts of things to do. And so there's another example of maybe you're not on your phone, but you're tasking yourself to be busy, 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 and not giving yourself the few minutes to say, like, how am I right
Mhm.
now? Because this is where my question to you of, can two things exist at once?
100 things, millions of things can exist at once. Yes.
So you can be happy for the family and everyone that's involved in this wonderful time of marriage, and you can also feel miserable or anxious, or I mean, you tell me, like, have you been to many weddings outside of your divorce? Yeah, okay, so like, is that how that was for you? You were happy for the couple, but then also experiencing your own feelings of grief?
Yeah. So let me backtrack. So before I
Okay.
got divorced, I was a bridesmaid for, I don't even know, maybe 10 to 15 weddings
Shit.
in my 20s, early 30s,
Yeah.
maybe even more. I don't even know. I was, there, like bridesmaid status
You've
for
been such a good bridesmaid too. Like so calming, like getting shit done. Like no wonder you were a bridesmaid to like so many people. I feel like you'd be the one to like make eye contact with, and you're like, just breathe.
breathe. That's it. Just take
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I've been a bridesmaid many times. I've attended many more weddings. And then post divorce, I have not been a bridesmaid, but I have, no, that's not true. Actually, I have been a bridesmaid. I have been a
Oh.
bridesmaid post divorce, and I've attended weddings post divorce, not as many, older, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think even the journey of, I was the first one in my friends group to get married. So
Oh yeah.
that was
Hey.
a different experience. And then towards the end of my marriage, attending weddings, then it's like this, it was this different knowing of things are falling apart for me, quote unquote. I'm going to put that in air quotes, falling apart for me. Yet I'm so happy that my loved one has found a loved one. And can I put my stuff to the side, but maybe meet that part of me in the in betweens, not like make it be all about me in the middle of the ceremony, for example. But can I still create space for that in the evening before I get ready or before at lunchtime, whenever? I think what I realized now in retrospect was going in my early 20s, mid 20s, early 30s as a bridesmaid in so many different weddings and an important person like in many weddings. I didn't check my own capacity and where I was because of those responsibilities. So I totally understand all of the responsibilities and the things that you just got to do things especially when you're involved in a wedding. I think what's shifted for me is I now do those check-ins with myself, and if I don't have capacity or if I have a limited capacity, I'm aware of that for myself and I don't push myself beyond those because I know that that's not going to be the best version of me for anyone involved. So I try to do that preventatively, not in the heat of the moment, because that's not going to help. So I have to check with myself like morning of, am I getting enough sleep? I know I get hangry.
Mm-hmm.
I know if I don't get enough sleep, I'm not a great person to be around. And if I'm going to be attending any event, weddings or whatever, like anything, what do I need to nourish myself so that I can show up how I want to show up?
Try to women that are maybe like in this place that you're talking about recognize that that's the thing they need. Because sometimes I think we can trick ourselves and we're like, oh yeah, like this is like the best thing ever that I'm leaving this marriage because it was so shitty.
Yeah.
So like of course I'm better not being with this person.
Mhm.
And sure, it's like a messy divorce, but like fuck it. I'm going to this wedding. I'm looking the best I ever have.
Sure.
I'm gonna wear the outfit. I'm gonna have my drinks. Like, so there's all these like gains, let's say the woman is feeling,
Mhm.
but maybe she's not being like real with herself because again, multiple things can exist at once. And so how would she know that I also have to like check in with myself and be gentle with myself? Yes, sure, those are great things. Yeah, I'm happy for the bride and groom, but there's other little rituals that happen in this wedding season that can maybe create some leakage, I guess, like that. Oh, I'm fine, but then it's coming out in weird ways. Like, so I don't know if you experience that or if you have something to add to that. Like, how do you help women, or how do we encourage to look into that?
It goes back to checking in with yourself.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself. That's a great, I mean, I guess that saying is there for a reason. Right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And what are you hiding? What are you trying to cover up? Like you said earlier, are you trying to cover up that pain that you're feeling by being at the bar and slamming however many beverages? Can you, before you even get to that point, bring that awareness ahead of time? Okay, my best friend is getting married. I'm now divorced. This is going to suck. And this is going to be really exciting and fun and beautiful. And how can all of that be together? I feel jealous. I feel envious. I feel like left out. I feel alone. I feel like, is this ever going to happen for me again? Am I ever going to find love again? All of those things can be true at one time in one freaking micro moment. And that can be true for the 5 days of the wedding events, all of it, and the 5 days before and probably the 5 days after. So if we don't check in with ourselves multiple times throughout that however long, we're just going to be covering up with the alcohol, the men, the gossip, the aunties, the loneliness, the avoidance, pick your flavor of however we're trying to cover up. And truly, it comes down to like protecting ourselves from pain, right? And can you meet that pain is really what I guess my invitation is. Like, can you meet that part of you, that those emotions that feel that we've by society and culturally are told not to feel? But the courageous thing is really to create space for that. Like, what is that version of you that is deeply afraid that you may never find this type of love again?
Mm-hmm.
What is the version of you that's so scared that you might die alone? I don't know. What is the fear? What is the deeper fear under everything else? Because all that's going to be what guides your behaviors. Day of, the little snark remarks that you make,
Yeah.
all of those things, the looks that you give, like, oh, did you see what she's wearing?
Yeah.
Bullshit. Like, what? No, check yourself.
Totally, because the environment starts to play such a huge factor in the coping part. And why, I'm just like wondering, like, why would it be beneficial to do the check yourself? Like, why? Because now you're going to like address some possible pain, shame, those kinds of things. So what's in it for a woman that's experiencing divorce? Even if she is divorced for 3-4 more years, and then there's a huge gap when her sister gets married, or her best friend, it's still stuff that can be heavy and show up. So like,
Yep.
what's in it for her to go there? Because I can just imagine for some people it's like, I'm fine. Like, I like, why would I open that can of worms? Why would I go there? So why did you go there? You didn't have to do it. Why would you?
My question would be, are you fine?
Yeah.
Are you really fine though, or are you just covering up? Are you masking? Are you avoiding? Are your behaviors, or your shopping? You know, pick the flavor of substance abuse, essentially, that the coping mechanisms that people use to pretend that everything is fine. So my question is,
Everything but to be in a room alone with themselves.
right. So like, are you really fine? And the reason to do this is because if you're not doing it, it's going to guide your decisions in every aspect of your life. Like, not the shame, the fear, all of that doesn't go away. So you're just going to keep pushing it down and down and down and down, like that pressure cooker that our moms use, that our aunties use.
Yeah, yeah.
And it starts shaking and starts shaking and starts shaking, and then it calms down. Then it starts shaking it, and then enough shaking and enough time goes on and enough heat and pressure, then that shit pops off.
It does pop, and it's loud.
It's loud and it's messy. Have you ever had doll like explode?
Yeah, there's always something on the ceiling of every Indian person's house.
Right. So if we want to use that analogy, it's similar, where if you don't feel that, if you don't actually create space for the shame and the fear, it's going to guide your friendships. It's going to guide your possible potential future romantic relationships. It's going to impact your relationship with your family, in your career even. It doesn't go away. That's the reality of it. So the more you keep pushing it away, pushing it down, the more suppression that you're going to do. It doesn't have a way to be fully expressed until someone says something, some auntie says something at the wedding or anywhere else, and a friend says something, and that's when you pop off, because it hasn't been gently released elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, because it can often feel like it's that other person's fault, and a lot of times it is most aunties' faults for the things they say that they shouldn't say.
Yeah.
But what I hear a lot of what you're talking about is like, we can't be in control of the environment, but we can be in charge of how we respond in it. And there's a huge difference of that. So instead of trying to control an outcome that's just not possible, like, take the time with yourself to be like, what does set me off? Where am I okay? Where am I not? Or when someone does say something, oh, you're divorced, how's that going? Or, you made a good point when we were prepping for this. It's like when you get introduced as she's the divorced one, and and guys don't get this, right? So this is, guys get a whole different level of treatment. Come, let me introduce you to a woman. This one will be really fitting for you, because it was the other woman's fault for not, for causing the divorce. It usually comes down to the women. So as the woman in this situation, you are called all these things. And I think you're right in like knowing some of these things ahead of time helps the landing. Hopefully it's a soft landing of like, okay, this auntie's she needs to go put some gulab jamuns in her mouth and get out of here.
Give me a bite first too.
Yeah, oh my God, tell me about it. I love them so much. I agree. Or, okay, that was hurtful, but sometimes like big emotions don't need to come out for some things that maybe aren't so drastic and big, but we make them so big because, as you're saying, we haven't done the work to say, okay, this is an embarrassing day for me, or I know I'm fine, I'm doing good, but I will feel guilty when I get some of those looks my way, or whatever it is, because we're human and we do feel like these things happen all the time, and it's okay to, and like you even mentioned, like jealousy, right? Like that's such a common one that none of us wants to admit, because it's like the nastiest, worst one. So I'd rather be called a bitch than, oh, she's so jealous. And so then we hide that, but it's still happening. So it's like a lot of what I hear you saying is that emotional overflow is going to be the doll on the ceiling if we don't tend to it. What are some scenarios, or what are some things that you remember in this season that were really difficult for you, that maybe you didn't think would be difficult for you, but you learned along the way?
I think the photos was an interesting piece, where we're family photos and friend photos, and suddenly I feel like, the bride and groom are in the center, and then all the couples, it's like everyone is there with their partner, and then all of a sudden I've gotten like pushed out to the far left side or whatever because I don't have a husband now. What? That was a very unexpected and surprising experience for me. Um, and then I think even when I wrote that in the email was, I remember one of the first, I think this is probably the first wedding that I went to, you know, they do the husband and wife, they do their first slow dance, and then they ask, oh, all the lovers come out and do their slow dance. And I'm like, fuck, this is, that sucks. That wasn't expecting that. So I think those little moments of, oh, I feel alone. And this is the first time that I've gone to a wedding, probably 30 weddings at this point in my life, where I don't have someone to go dance with. And it's just a different experience, a very unexpected experience, because I got married at such a young age. And I think if people were single for longer, they have that experience. That there's an expectation almost of like, they just know, okay, the couples are going to go up and dance and they're okay. Maybe not, I don't know, maybe not, they're okay, but they're used to, I guess, to some degree of not being the ones who go up and dance on the dance floor for that first dance song. That was a shock for me that I was not expecting. And so that was a different experience that was really surprising. So I think a lot of the things were, I think, again, like what you were saying about being out of your control. But I think if I had heard someone talk about this, hey, be on the lookout for,
Yeah.
just be aware that the first wedding that you go to, you're going to be sitting at that table by yourself. I would have at least had that awareness of an expectation that I had in my mind. But because I didn't have that, it was a shock to me. So I think all of these things to say, and be semi-prepared, I guess, as prepared as you can be, but be prepared for aunties to say shit. Be prepared. Like, what are you going to say? How are you going to respond? Are you going to say something? Is it in your best effort and in your energy and your capacity to just, okay, auntie, and go the other way, not put in the effort? Do you want to put in the effort and check her? You know, when a friend, a cousin, whoever says something, what do you want to do? I think going to these types of events a little bit more prepared, so that, like, exactly what you said, you're not reacting, but you can respond from okay, I'm expecting an auntie to say some shit to me. Mm-hmm. I'm expecting to be alone at that first dance. I'm expecting to maybe be pushed out from the photos. Okay, now that you know that this might happen, what do you want to do? I think if I knew some of these things ahead of time, I would have felt more prepared.
Well said, like good examples. What about for those of us that are sitting at the table with you, and then we're just giving you these, like, we feel sorry for you pity looks? Because I'm sure that happens too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, how are you? You know, and then you see these couples that are fucking matching with their suit and her outfit, and you're like, fuck you guys. like I'm just imagining the other end of things, and we're all like, oh my God, we just got back from Italy, and we just like renewed our vows, and we've been together for 100 years, and we're ready for 100 more. And you're like, I'm gonna puke in my mouth right now. Like, you know, again, you're like, that's great for you, but also like, shut the fuck up. I would imagine, I would imagine something along those lines of like, okay, take it easy with that. But people do that because people are excited about their own life and stuff, and not everyone has a sense of awareness, or people care in the most weirdest, too much of a way of like, oh shit, you're like, something's wrong with you now that, you know, you don't have a man to like, you must be, how did you even get here today? Like, like you drove yourself? Like, right. What? Like,
yes. And I plan on getting out of this tight ass Indian outfit by myself too.
Also that, who's going to take your hairpins out and unzip your outfit? Like, again, those in-between moments, as we said at the beginning, that we don't pay much attention to when it's happening in the relationship, and then you don't know how to prepare for it outside of it, that when it does happen, you're like, oh, okay, this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know if you have anything to add to that. Like for
Yeah.
those of us on the other end that are, what can we be doing?
That's a great question. I think being aware that you don't have to pity us because we don't have a man next to us. So a lot of us are actually quite happy without.
Wow, right? It's like, wow, you're not. You can't, it's
Right.
not, yeah. But I bet, I'm sure especially those of you like that are doing the work in the way that you are, you're getting to know you.
And that doesn't mean also that I don't want to necessarily get remarried, for example. I don't know if that's what I want. I haven't
Yeah.
gotten there yet. But that doesn't mean that I can't enjoy my life right now.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that I don't enjoy my divorced life. I can be, again, multiple things can be true at one time. So I don't think the main thing, if you are a person who's in a relationship, happily married, for example, traveling the world, and you've got the house and the kids, I think just we're probably the realest people that you can have a conversation with. So have a conversation like a real human being. And that can be true for anyone, but I think we as a divorced woman, one, I'll say this is not just our entire identity. We have lives outside of this
Right.
label.
Yes. No, I'm glad you said that.
We're doing other shit. We're living our lives. So that's one part. And then two is just you can be real. It's like I think if I had someone who was willing to have a real conversation about how my marriage was really going, and I truly felt like they were a safe space to actually have that kind of conversation, who knows what would have been different. But I don't think that I don't really feel like I had that. And so, I mean, I can't say this for every person who is divorced, but there's a chance, and probably a high chance, that they are someone that has experienced life in a different way, less traditional, and they are probably have a relatively, generally again speaking, open mind to different experiences. So if you want to talk about some real life shit, real life relationship stuff, they're probably a good person to go to be honest. Again, very generally speaking.
No, where I absolutely see that is because what happened in your process here of like, especially being Indian, is marriage means that you've hit the high note.
Yeah.
And it's, if you have a good job, that's on top of it. And if you have kids, that's like extra. But marriage is what, you just do it. That's the thing. You just do it. And you even talked about at the beginning, like that sort of kind of you just were hurt in this hurt of like, you're going to go get married and you did it. And then all of a sudden one day you're like, wait a minute. I mean, I know it's not one day, but it's like, oh shit, wait a minute. Maybe this isn't what I thought I wanted. And so I think when someone, a brown woman gets divorced, where I see what you're saying is like, you're kind of paving this new road that many people haven't really walked on, because either it's like not safe to leave, or they never even thought of it. And I'm not talking about the happily married people that obviously also have their issues. I'm talking about the ones that feel like they're stuck. They can't leave because of the kids, the financial connection. Yep. A lot of people find stability through finances with their partner. So there's all these sorts of things that are happening. And I think even for some of the brown women that I've talked to, what their view of life was while they were married, and then afterwards was like, damn, you're like willing to go there and talk about that. And you do have like a rebirth, a growth, a learning in a way of like, oh, not everything is meant to be the way that they say it is. And you question life in a bit of a different way. And I have a lot of respect for that, because it's unfortunate sometimes it has to go that way, but our journeys are our journeys. And, these things happen in the way that they do for many of us. But I think it's like, because something happened that wasn't supposed to. And you and I even talked about this before we started recording, like it's such a taboo to have a divorced woman even present at some of these events, because that's not supposed to happen. So it's like this ghost that's there that we're all acknowledging, and God forbid you are contagious and pass on your divorce germs to this sacred bride and before us,
Right.
right? So talk a little bit about that, because when you mentioned that, I was like, yeah, like damn, because you have this like whole world view now, and then here you are being boxed at this event. And you're like, I didn't even want to go, and I'm coming here for the sake of being here for the globjamins, and now I'm a fucking cancer to like, I'm the reason why you guys are going to get divorced in 5 minutes. Okay, sure.
Right.
That's
So, okay, I'm going to bring it to patriarchy. I'm going to bring it to that because so much of this is centered around relationships, and women are not good enough unless you are married. And so then when the man is no longer in the picture, it's like you are scraps. And especially in more traditional South Asian cultures, it's like, yeah, you as a divorced woman, you're now bringing bad juju, you're bringing bad energy. Oh, it didn't work out for you. And so now you can't be involved in the haldi, for example. I've seen that. I didn't experience it because my friends didn't believe in that, but I have seen that in other weddings where I wasn't directly related to that person, but I've seen it where it's like traditional things, traditional rituals. As a divorced woman, you can't be included because you're divorced. What kind of bullshit is that? And I just think it's ridiculous. And like, it's okay. I'm gonna say I'm about to go off. Okay, so get ready.
do
Here we go.
it. I love
Okay,
it.
so I think that people have this thought that you're now divorced. And first of all, there's this fear that as a divorced woman, I want to go take your man, your husband.
Oh yeah, okay. Right.
Listen to everyone out there. I don't want your man. I don't want that. I don't even want to talk shit about that person. But like, that's not who I'm going for.
Oh man.
So there's, I think, this fear that as a divorced woman, like there's, and I believe this
Because
is
wild. You're a wild
I'm a
witch
wild
woman now.
Yes, it's true. It's true. But that doesn't mean I want your husband.
Well,
Your
hey,
husband.
wild witch women, we don't know this for sure. So please don't sit at our table, and
You
don't sit
know,
at the children's table, because we don't want young girls to get the idea that they don't have to get married.
I mean, the witches were burned because they were women in their power.
Yeah.
And they were connected to earth and land and their intuition. And God forbid that happens.
Yeah.
So that's just a side note on that. But also, yeah, so now
Okay, so you don't want the married woman's man. Okay. And so to bring you back on track, I like this.
okay. So yes, I feel like this is gonna also a side note, but I feel like I am much more wild because I'm not tamed anymore. I'm not domesticated.
Yeah.
I literally
Naturally.
have a tattoo of a lioness with a key because that's to remind me that it's me and myself to give myself permission to free me from these cultural cages. So no one else is going to do it for me. So yes, I am a wild woman now. When I think about my 20-year-old version self, she didn't know who she was. She was so submissive, very quiet, very demure, very mindful.
The perfect future bride.
Yes.
Yeah.
Snatch me up. And it happened.
Totally.
And now I actually think for myself and I question things and I do things that are actually true for me and I don't just follow. Of course, other women are slightly fearful of me because I'm mirroring to them where they're still caged, if you will.
Yeah.
So, and that's again, that can be a scary reflection.
For sure.
If you're not willing to see like, well, where are you not free? Where are you still holding yourself back? For a million reasons, right? There's a million reasons why we hold ourselves back. There's a million reasons why I held myself back. I'm way more free and liberated now than I have ever been in my life. But that doesn't mean necessarily that I'm going to do anything that's harmful But will I plant seeds for people to see that this is what life is like, that you don't need to follow every single step or every single thing that was laid out for you? Yeah. Yeah, I will. What you do with that, that's on you. But if you catch me on the dance floor as a divorced woman,
Oh my
by
gosh.
myself.
You guys dance? You guys still have joy and dance when you're divorced? I'm
Yeah,
surprised. Wow.
imagine that. Yeah, it's really wild. I've danced more now than I have in my
See,
20s.
that's the thing, right? Like your experience, like, and what we keep coming back to when you share these examples is you did your homework, you did your work, you went through the hard growing pains of like, what was that all about? Why did I get married? What did I gain? What happened? What did I lose? Who am I? All those things that, again, as a community, we don't teach children to think critically and question the questioning. So, of course, you were this wonderful, kind, timid bride woman. And you're right. A lot of the underlings of this conversation is the conversation about patriarchy. And I think it's hard sometimes for women in our community to go there, to connect to that, and they will get angry. I've been in a room with women and brought it up, and they will get angry, and then they will themselves also say, well, you're that kind of a feminist. And it's like, whoa, wait, well, how did we get there? But because it's so scary. It's so scary to go there, and every single one of us has thought about it to some degree. Some have brushed it down hard and put a lock on that cage and said, this is not going to work because I got to take care of my kids or do whatever it is I got to do, right? So you justify it. So then when a woman like you shows up to one of these events, then it's like, let's just keep her down by she is the divorced one, to remind everyone in that room of like, you don't want to do that, you don't want to go there. And now I'm really glad that even if we go a few minutes back, I love what you said about it's not your identity. And I think that's what a lot of the stigma does, is it creates this thing of like, you are now the divorced woman, like that is who you are. That's your identity. And it's like, okay, well, that's one part of my life journey, but it's not the be all end all. And so I can imagine how hard it is for women to get to this place too, that are in the process, because they think this is what's going to happen. It's going to be my life journey now of being a divorced lady.
Yeah, and there's so much shame culturally that
For sure.
You're not supposed to enjoy your life post-divorce. Like, you're supposed to be an old hag, essentially. And I don't want that for me. I don't want that for me. I want to enjoy my life, whether I'm single or dating or in a long-term relationship or legally married or not legally married. I don't know. But either way, any of those ways, I'm going to enjoy my life. I'm not going to let someone else, again, dictate for me that now that I'm not married, then therefore I am no good, that I need to be in a cave and not enjoy my life. No, absolutely, fuck that. No.
Yeah.
Middle finger up to that, because no, I'm going to enjoy my life, whether you like it or not. And that's something that, man, my 20-year-old self would never have said, because again, going back to external validation, seeking approval, I wouldn't have had the capacity even to consider that as a possibility for me now. So I think when it comes down to like, how do you want to live your life? It's not your full identity. This is one part of one chapter of my life.
Yeah.
I'm still me, no matter what my marital status is. And that goes against so much of what South Asian culture is again, that you've succeeded in life when you are a bride and a wife, and then a mother, and then a grandmother. And it's like, if you're not fulfilling these duties, then what are you doing? I'm fucking enjoying my life. I'm living it. All the ups and downs that come with it.
And I think that's the privilege of, at least, we can say, because we live in North America, growing up in North America and having the the privilege to be able to say, like, I'm living my life, I'm enjoying my life, this is how I'm going to try to be in my next chapter, this is what I've learned from my divorce. And like, we do recognize that this isn't the case in every situation, but I think the reason why you and I are having this conversation is so that we can start to, like, I would say all these conversations are like collecting data. And so we can start to normalize, but the more we talk, like, there are multiple ways to live our life, whether we're in the marriage or single, we're divorced, whatever we want to say. And the bottom line is, a lot of us are now pushing up against, okay, I'm not just the role of a daughter, a wife, a mother, niece, successful business owner, whatever people's job is. Like, who am I outside of that? And really, these external labels and controls come from being parented in a conditioning kind of way. Get the good grades, now you're the good kid, we'll buy you a car, we'll buy you this, we'll buy you this. And now here some of us are now like, oh, I'm so hollow because what more can I fill my space with? And a lot of what you're talking about today is, it's not about filling your space with the things and stuff. It's filling your space with you and, you know, looking within, as you said at the beginning, of, okay, like, where am I? Who am I in this journey? And I think if you are a woman who has children, and in our community, when divorce is involved, it's so rare that we hear the man, the dad, the ex, the husband playing a role. Like, he just gets to fuck off a lot of the time and is struggling with his stuff. And we have a lot of empathy for him. And I've seen a lot of women around me having to carry the load of being the mom and the sole parent, and trying to justify why your family from your dad's side doesn't see you, and all these kinds of things. And it's like, where does she find the space and time when she's doing all that, as we were saying earlier, to then say, okay, I need to also, like, think about me and what it is that I need for my healing journey. And so I can appreciate, like, all these things are going on at once. And then you get the invitation to the wedding, and you're like, how do I put this on hold? How do I prepare? So it's not easy, I would imagine. However, it's, as you were saying, it's definitely needed. It's like, let's raise the bar for ourselves and how important we are to ourselves to work through some of this stuff. The bar of I'm fine is, you know, go ahead.
I would say also, as you were asking about, like, okay, what can we do as people who are loved ones of someone who is now divorced, right? Is check in with them. Like, okay, if you know that your friend got invited to a big family wedding, check in with your friend. Like, hey, girl, we're just thinking about you. I know that you're going to your cousin's wedding. It might be the first wedding that you're going to now that you're divorced. Like, what's going on? How are you feeling? What's really going on? Divorce is and can be very isolating. And I think that I threw myself a divorce party because, shit, if I'm going to have a bridal shower and a bachelorette party and a wedding and a honeymoon, why can't we celebrate this other chapter? Again, it goes back to, oh, you're supposed to go be miserable now. This is your miserable life. And no, like, check in with your friends who are now divorced. They need you. They really do. Check in with them and be real with them. Like, the same way that a friend might be going through some health conditions or a breakup, like even just I'm going to put a basic breakup, like, your friend has now gone through 5, 10, 15, 20 years of a breakup. Bring them a meal. Drink some tea with them on the couch. Watch a sad rom-com and cry your fucking eyes out. Go on a road trip and put on some old school R&B songs and cry your eyes out, and then rage out in the car. Have those experiences with your friends, because those are just as important, I believe, than everything else that we get to celebrate during Shadi season. So I think that's really important to also just name, is, you know, when you check in with your friends.
No, I love that. I love everything you said, because we can all play a part. And yeah, we show up when someone's ill, we show up for all these other things. And so we do have a different mindset when it comes to divorce, and you think you're okay. It's a choice. You
Yeah.
chose to exit, so then you must be okay. All these sorts of things, which sure could be true. I think, yeah, like your friend, your cousin, whoever it is, like, they need that space too. Because I know you had mentioned before too, like sometimes it's like you as a divorced person stop getting invited to
Mhm.
like a girls thing or an event or whatever as well.
Mhm.
So you do not only feel isolated by yourself, but also by the people that were in your circle.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I think there's many reasons for that, but I think there's, a lot of times, I don't want to say this. I think a lot of my 20s and my married life, my friends were married.
Yeah.
So you did married shit together. You went to dinner together, you went on trips together, you went to events together. And I don't know if I was as inclusive to people who, I don't even know if I had any divorced friends, to be honest, when I was married. So I need to check myself on that too, because was I checking in with those people? Was I even friends with those people? Was I not friends with those people because they were divorced?
Yeah. Like fair questions, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot, so many layers to all of these conversations. And I think it really just comes down to being true with what your own experience is, but being aware of the millions of other things that are happening and creating space for all of it. It might not have to be space right there in that moment, but just acknowledging, oh, I'm feeling jealousy. I'm feeling jealous right now. But under the jealousy is really, I'm grieving. I'm
Hmm.
angry that my fairy tale didn't pan out the way that I thought it was going to. Most of us, 99%, I don't know if that's an actual number, but like 99% of us don't get divorced knowing that we're going to get divorced.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. That's
Yeah.
not the intent going into it. And I think then it also can be like a bit of a jaded kind of vibe too when you're sitting at these wedding events and you're kind of like having this, I would imagine, like out of body experience of like, fuck, like how many years ago did I have this exact kind
Right.
of
Yeah.
event, and now here I am in my place, and like, is it going to work for you? Is it not? I know it's not my problem, but now I'm wondering this. My mind is going to all these crazy ass places, and so I think it's just like allowing the permission to be like, this is my thought, and hopefully there is someone, at least one person that you can turn to. Any of us for any of these hardships can turn to and say,
Mhm.
I just had a fucking mean ass thought in my head.
Mhm.
Let me just get it out. It's like when you have a nightmare about someone so important to you, and instead of holding it in, they always say just let it out, talk about it, and it sends good vibes because that's likely not the thing that's going to go down. And I think
Mhm.
it's the same when we're having these weird ass, whether they're jealousy, anger, sad thoughts of some other people, that let it out. Say to someone that you trust, as you said, another divorced friend maybe who, like you said, has a lot of stamina for these kinds of conversations,
Mhm.
to say, yeah, maybe I'm morbid, but here's what I thought in that moment. It was a beautiful moment, and my brain ruined it by thinking I'm gonna smash that cake,
Right.
like, or whatever it is.
And
Yeah.
that goes back to checking yourself, like checking your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own behaviors. Because if we don't express it somewhere, even if it literally means, okay, I need to go to the bathroom by myself and say this to myself in the mirror, is that was a thought that happened. But the reality, what really happened was this. And then my mind thought this and I felt this. Check yourself. You might not have anyone to go as a reality, but you can
Yeah.
go to the bathroom, you can look at yourself in the mirror, you can check yourself in your own conversation, you can journal things. I got my journal here, write a bunch, write it out, feel it out. But check yourself that your thoughts are not being externally expressed, and you're not like that jaded thought isn't fucking up everyone else's experience.
Yeah, I think that that's key for this whole season that we're in, and we're talking particularly about being divorced and attending, but any of our own baggage, like these are important things
Right.
for us of like it shouldn't be coming out in those moments. And we've seen it. We've seen fights break out on the dance floor. We've seen too much drinking. We've
Mhm.
seen all sorts of things happen growing up as adults at these events. Maybe some of us were the ones that were in those scenarios, and those people didn't show up that day thinking I'm going to ruin this.
Right.
It's missing the signs leading up to it that are saying, oh, you better deal with this. Oh, here it is. Here's that thing. Here's that thing. And it's fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Which goes back to your point of, but are you really
Mhm.
actually truly fine?
Mhm.
And how do you know you're fine? What's the
Mhm.
thing that would, tell me that you're fine? How do I know you're fine?
And how do you
But,
know when you're not fine? Because like when that
great
pressure
question.
cooker
Yeah.
starts rumbling, what are your symptoms? What are your signs for yourself? Do you start feeling like heat internally? Do you start feel like do you notice you start sweating? Do you start feeling a stuckness in your throat? Do you start feeling like this sudden need to cry? What are those signs and thoughts for yourself when the pressure cooker starts coming? Instead of turning the heat up even higher, can you lower it? Can you go step away? Can you go to the restroom? Can you go for a walk? Can you take yourself out of that scenario, that situation, so that you're not in the heat of it and things don't get worse?
Yeah. And as you're saying that, I would add this kind of reminds me of I usually do like an episode around the holidays,
Mm,
and which is difficult for many. And I think, a lot of what comes up in there and what I'm hearing here is being at every single event from the minute it starts to the minute it ends does not mean that you are being present and supportive of the people getting married. You can truly set your own limit of I'm going to go for an hour. I can't
mhm,
attend this one.
mhm,
Like I think it's so important to feel for yourself because no one's going to look out for you. And if you can't make it the whole friggin', week or however long it is, you don't have to either. I would much rather be part of like a little like a couple of hours of some a loved one's event and I show up and I'm present and I give the best energy
mhm,
than 16 hours of what is wrong with this chick, like, and people are asking me, are you okay? Or
mhm,
I feel embarrassed because I said something or whatever, right? So I think like give yourself limits too. I have a friend, my best friend actually, that's getting married, and we're in the same age, we're in our mid 40s. And first of all, I'm like, thank you so much for getting married at this age, because at this age we're all going to funerals. So like,
yeah.
I'm so glad that we get to have this in I'm at 45 and I get to be part of this wedding process. Like, how
Mhm,
exciting is this? And
mhm,
we had this really heartfelt discussion about, I was like, when I got married in my 20s, like my wedding week and time centered everyone in my mind, because it was me centering myself in my as I should. I also felt like it should be just as important for everyone. And
yeah.
then, as you get a little bit of experience under your belt and you grow a little bit and you think, no, these milestones are meant for whose ever event it is. We
Mhm,
can't put that on other people. And so we
mhm,
have to also be okay in how people do and don't show. Like everyone's got to own their thing. And it
yeah.
was a really cool conversation to have together because my best friend is very wise. And she probably thought this in her 20s as she would now in her late 40s, but mid 40s. Sorry, she'd be so mad at me. She's also like 6 months younger than me. So she makes a point to be like, you're so much older than me. But I think it's just a reminder, right? Like if it's my wedding, yeah, it's the most important day of my life, not all the people coming or that can't come. And I think sometimes in the community, in our culture, in our friendships, and our family, we get so enmeshed that we think
Yeah.
it's the most important day and we all have to take time off work and be part of and then we get upset when people can't attend or we feel guilty. And
Mhm.
it's like you can't sometimes be at everything, and that's fucking okay.
Yeah. I think that speaks to capacity and
Yeah.
advocating for yourself and going back to that expectations and external expectations of, oh, as a bride I'm expecting everyone to cater for, like, what do they call it, bridezillas,
Oh yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
catering to my every need, and everyone's going to be showing up for everything. Like, I don't know, someone's mom might have just passed away, they're in their own freaking experience, And that doesn't mean that, again, like in a different flavor, it doesn't mean they're not happy for you. That doesn't mean that they're not excited for you, but they're also having their own experience. Someone else might have just gone through a breakup. Someone else might have just lost their job. There's so many freaking things that people are experiencing at any given time that is going to have an impact on how they show up and their capacity to show up. So can we give everyone just a little bit of damn grace?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the world is worlding right now.
And that's just exactly, we're just a small part of this big picture of what's happening in the world. And here we are, we're so privileged to talk about how to prepare to go to wedding season. So like, even when we pull the microscope further, we're like, okay, we're very fortunate that this is the thing that we are talking about. So you're so right about that. Like, just, I think it's just trusting that people know themselves better and people will do their own thing, and that's not shade to the happy couple or what. And as we're talking, and as I mentioned, this friend of mine too, like I do have to say, a lot of what you talked about in the beginning, I saw this with her because this is her second wedding. She got married very young, in her 20s. And I remember over the years, like, as many of us encourage her to date and these things, she was very open to it, but she was most open to caring for herself and dating herself. And it was really cool and liberating that she never felt loneliness, even though she was alone in many ways, but she did so much friggin' work on herself. So like literally connecting the dots too to what you were saying at the beginning of look within, do that work. And I remember her journaling, therapy, doing all these things of like, I just have to figure out who I am, because her identity also, like many of us, was built around this is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And like kudos to women like you, to her and others that put that time in, because I can imagine that's not, it's not easy shit to do, and it's not okay when someone, throws a comment your way and says the things or whatever. But those of you that do the work, you guys do this thing of like letting those things just, at least not showing that it impacted you, and maybe it did, but not enough to take over, because the work that you did was more valuable. So like, I have to commend you as well and thank you for doing that, and also having the kind of conversations you have on your own pod, the emails. Like, how this conversation started is I just got back from my best friend's bachelorette weekend, so I have wedding on my brain, and you send out your blogs, your emails, and you were talked about Shadi season and what happens for some people, particularly divorced people. And I was like, this is so, and then look at the date that it is too, right? So it's just like, it was just the way that it worked itself out was like, okay, this conversation was definitely needed for those that maybe don't know how to have it. So is there anything, before we get into your middle fingers up, is there anything, my lovely friend, that you want to add, or that you wish we kind of talked about in terms of like prepping for the season that maybe hasn't come up that you want to say? And also,
Yes, a couple things. Check in with your friends, single, married, dating, divorced. Just check in with your people. It can be, hey, I'm thinking about you text. What's going on? That's all. That's a good start. We can get really caught up in our lives, day-to-day stuff. And if we really want to have meaningful relationships of any sort with anyone, it requires work.
yeah.
It requires some intention. And that includes dating yourself. That includes checking in with yourself. Like that text that you would send to a friend that I just said, check in with yourself. Hey, how you doing? How you feeling today? What's going on? What's heavy today? What are you celebrating today? What's going great? What do you need support with? And I think what I would invite people to really reflect on is, can we put aside labels? Can we put aside marital status? Can we put aside even job titles? I know I'm asking a lot from the South Asian community right now. But can you just be with a human and just have a fucking real ass conversation? Everyone's got emotions. Everyone's got life experiences. Everyone's grieving. Everyone's raging. Everyone's celebrating. Can we just talk about it? Can we create space for it? And that's just being real, like with anyone. It doesn't even have to be with your friends. It can be with the person that you go get your coffee from. Like, look them in the eye and be like, hey, how's your day going? I've done that before, and they've literally like glitched out because they're on their own autopilot, putting in the orders, getting the drinks. I'm like, hey, how's your day going? And they're like, huh? What? Okay, what?
Totally, right? That's a response that says we don't often get asked that.
Right.
And so it's weird when someone asks you that almost because, yeah, you're not used to it, or let alone asking yourself. So this part of what you're saying is such a simple gesture, but it goes such a deep, long way. And I think we probably underestimate it, those of us that maybe don't do it enough to send that. We're quick to send the shitty ass Google reviews or say, this thing sucked, that thing sucked, versus actually, these are the things that were really good about it. Or yeah, like, what was that like for you? So I think that's a great reminder of check in, not just with yourself, but also with people that we keep, people in our top 10 list or whoever those people are, top 5, top 1, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think just creating that awareness around, well, why did that lady get pushed to the end of the photo? Can we bring her in? Like, just include people. Just like you want to be included in things, ask people to go hang out, spend time together, go drink chai together, come over. I think that there's just so many opportunities for points of connection and points of real human conversations. And I'll share this. This is where I'll end. I recently saw a reel where in India, a daughter was divorced. She got divorced, and the dad like had a whole village celebration of bringing her back home.
Oh my goodness, I have goosebumps. That's so cute.
And how different that is from, again, the more traditional patriarchal, like, oh, now you're part of that property essentially of your husband, and now you're coming back and there's so much shame, and now you're damaged goods. And this dad was like, no, we're so happy you're safe. We're so happy you're home. We're celebrating that you're here. And what if we brought that energy to everything, really? Like anything and everything. Like, oh, you got a divorce? Fuck yeah. Let's go out. Let's go celebrate. Let's go on a trip. Let's go out to dinner. Let's go for a walk. Tell me about that experience. Learn from people's experiences. We won't learn from anyone else's experiences if we're in our own bubble.
Yeah, I love that. And I think as we enter this Shadi season and we go up to the bar to go get a drink, we go to the washroom or wherever it is in the wedding venue that we go to, I think that's a great place to start and say, how are you? It's been a minute. What brought you here today? All these wonderful opening door questions that you suggested, just how are you, looking them in the eye? I think that's a great place to start. And even if that means you're the one that's suffering, it's okay for you to also go and ask someone, because like you said, everyone's got a story, everyone's got something, and maybe that other person is going to share something that we just needed to hear. Like, how many times has that happened? Where, like I said, just the timing of my email of what was already on your mind opened the door for me to say, hey, you know what? You're right. It is this season. And everyone comes in with such different flavors. And then here we are having this conversation today. And it took you kind of sharing your experience, opening the door to what you remember this season being like. So I think that's lovely.
One more thing.
Yeah. Oh God, give me as many. You also have a middle fingers up too. After that, you have a middle fingers up too. So
there's sometimes you have to be the one that goes first. Sometimes you have to be the courageous one when someone asks you, how are you? Instead of saying, I'm all right, or I'm fine, everything's fine, right? Like surface level, again, I'm going to plant the seed for you, all of us, to be like, but how are you really? So when someone asks you, how are you? The back voice is now mine, but how are you really? And then, is it the right situation? Is it the right space? Do you feel safe enough? Do you feel courageous enough to be real about that answer? Because sometimes you got to be the one that opens up first.
That's right. Because sometimes it's like what I hear you saying is sometimes we're looking for someone to bring safety to the conversation. And what I hear is it's okay for us to also bring safety as we're going to say, by the way, I know we're at this venue, but like, you know what? I cried on the way here, or
Yeah,
I had
exactly.
raging diarrhea in the bathroom after eating the food, whatever, you know, like it's all the things can be true. So I like that.
Yeah.
It's like putting onus on ourselves as well, not waiting for someone to ask. Because not everyone is going to ask us. So
not everyone's going to ask us. And even if they do, are we going to reciprocate with surface level?
Yeah. I'm good. I'm fine. Yeah.
But are you really?
Right? Yeah. Right.
And I ask people that. I will say that. I will be that person. So not everyone's going to be that person. So sometimes, you know, you got to be real. And not everyone's going to be able to meet you there either. Like, oh shit, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting you to say everything was fine.
Well, do I not look fine? Now we're having a weird moment, right? It's like, no. Just giving you an opportunity to change your answer if you need to. I'm here for it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you do a great job of that. You do a really great job of that. You're like, oh, I'm here. If you want to add to that, if you want to go deeper.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think I appreciate that. Thank you. I value that. And that means a lot to hear that, because I do, as my own learnings too, of it's not always about me. And so like, how do we check in with people? And I used to get people at coworkers say, not everything is about something else. You know, sometimes a banana is just a banana. Cause I'd always say there's always something underneath, as the clients taught us over time. Right. And so, and I know that for me, I know I have a lot of layers. I'm sure you do. We all do. We're not that different. And I think sometimes we feel like we are, because my experience isn't the same as yours, but my stuff is very similar. And I think sometimes we have to be okay with saying that person's also going through it. Maybe they'll get it. It's real. Sometimes it's real shit that you want to throw out there. So I appreciate the women in my life that I've been able to do that with.
And that's all we can do, is support each other and be real with each other, because otherwise, what are we doing? We're just faking it.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I know where my surface level conversations are going to be, because sometimes there's some people that you're like, this is just one of those social people that you're like, hey, great, awesome, the trip, tell me more, so cool, I love your energy. And then you have your WhatsApp groups with some of the people that you're like, by the way, I didn't want to get out of bed today. And you're not even waiting for them to ask, you just start your day with, and I hate the world. Okay. I had one of the lovely women in my group chat. There was something that came up last week. I wasn't feeling great. And I've been talking about I'm in perimenopause. So sometimes I'm like, am I sick, or is it the hormones, right? I'm figuring it out. And so she was like, how are you? And I'm like, I don't know. Where do I even start? And you know what she said? She said, how about you start at the beginning? Like, that just made me cry in the moment. That's all I needed. I was like, actually quite okay after that, just to get permission to say, it's okay to just tell me I got time for every single thing here. And so it's so meaningful when we have people in our world that can do that for us, right?
Yep, 100%. And sometimes we are that person, and sometimes we get to find people to be for us too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so middle fingers up, my friend. You kind of said one earlier, but you get a chance to add to that one or give another one. I don't care. We make the rules, so.
We make the rules. That's right. I say middle fingers up this time around to just tradition and doing things without necessarily questioning them and isolating people because of a fucking marital status. What? No. So let's not do that, and really just like all the stigmas and the taboo and the shame, like have those conversations and be real, like human to human. That's it. So middle fingers up to isolation and stigmas and oppression.
Yeah. Double middle fingers. Well said.
Yeah.
Look, I'm really grateful that I got to do a second round with you. I'm grateful that I've been able to carry out a relationship with you outside of this too. And so I love this passion project because I get to meet people like you who from afar check in and share a lot of valuable, information about being a brown woman and the things and stuff that happen in between. So thank you for today, and to everyone else, like these, we say these are door openers. Look, we're just having these conversations. So we're not perfect at it and we're not trying to be, we're just trying to be curious. And the best thing that everyone can do is contribute to these conversations, because, well, Mo and I don't know it all, and we need everyone's perspective to build off of this and say, yeah, we're going to change things up a bit. We're going to have different kind of conversations. We're going to pull the woman in and not take her out of that photo. All those little things that can be impactful because we have a bit of an awareness going on. So, Bud, you get the last word. So anything you want to say before we hit the red button here that takes the record off?
Any last words? Be kind to each other. That's it.